to the Human Resources Appointments and Equity Committee meeting of this fine July 7th. Roll call, please.
Calling the roll, Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent. Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Germana.
Here.
Mr. Miller. Here. Ms. Brown. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And in a second, motion to excuse Ms. Conwell for cause. All in favor? Against? Thank you. Public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one has signed in.
Okay. In your packet, you have the minutes of June 16th. If you find them in order, I'll accept the motion.
Move to accept the minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Mayor's referred to a committee. Resolution 0104.
Resolution 2015-0104, a resolution adopting various changes to the Cuyahoga County non-bargaining classification plan and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Morning, Albert.
Good morning, Council. My name is Albert Bouchahine. I'm with the Personnel Review Commission. Before I begin, I'd like to make a request to amend 5 of the classifications that are proposed for deletion at the county airport. This morning, the administration had requested more time to review those classifications. This process started under former Director Bonnie Tewin, and current Director Mike Dever had requested a little bit more time, and we have no objections. Again, before you are requested changes to the county's non-bargaining classification plan. These changes are part of routine, ongoing maintenance of the class plan. The PRC is proposing revisions to 4 existing classifications that range from changes to job titles to changes to essential functions and pay grades. The impetus for these changes was the position audit process that is administered by the Department of Human Resources and/or requests from department directors. We are proposing the creation of 4 new classifications that were requested by the county medical examiner and the result of work being performed at the new county regional forensics lab. Also being proposed is the deletion of, before you it's 20, it's going to be 15 now, classifications. In February of this year, a list of vacant classifications was sent to the HR department teams. We requested they consult with their department directors that they're assigned to and inform us of classifications that were obsolete and could be deleted from the class plan. There are currently no incumbents in any of these classifications. Before you now are 15 rather than 20 classifications that were identified. All the changes before you have been reviewed and approved by the Personnel Review Commission and in consultation with the Department of Human Resources. We're requesting your consideration and approval of these changes. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions from the committee? What's going on with that airport?
I wish I could answer.
That seems to be the standard.
I can speak specifically to these classifications. Their airport manager and assistant airport manager have always been non-bargaining, but have been vacant. Director at the time, Bonnie Tewin, had requested to reorganize the airport and therefore resulting in us deleting these classifications. The airport operations technicians 1, 2, and 3 were non-bargaining years and years ago. They've since bargained. They're part of a collective bargaining agreement, and that's why we had proposed their deletion. But we have no problems with holding on and having more discussions with the current director.
So you really don't need this to move forward today?
We do without the airport operations deletions. There's 5 classifications that we're proposing deletion for at the county airport that we'd like to remove from this resolution at this time.
Yeah, I think a broader discussion on that airport needs to happen. To remove the administration from the airport and basically place that under what would have been Ms. Tewin again?
I can't speak to the operations of the airport or how.
This was her plan.
The plan was that these classifications were vacant, had no incumbents, and that she had informed us that she wanted to reorganize and not. She had no intention of filling these classifications.
Does that fall to Mr. Dever now?
That does.
Why don't we send that back to Mr. Dever and have him prepare at least a look-see as to what that plan looks like going forward, so we'd be a little bit more comfortable regarding staffing out there. For whatever reason, that seems to be a hot spot. And it does seem to me from the outside looking in that some people are being favored over others out there. And that's probably not the way we want to do business.
Understood, will do.
Any questions regarding the base of this legislation, Mr. Germano?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of agree with you. I'm just wondering, does he need another week? Because if it's just another week, we could pass this on to the council with the idea that we could delete those 5 positions. And if we could hear from him by the council meeting, then, I'm just wondering if a week would be enough time. Chris, you have any idea?
So I can speak to this a little bit. It's not my specific area of focus for the administration, but the county executive has had at least 3 meetings on the airport in the last month, including a site visit. As part of cost containment, the county personnel at the airport has been reduced from, I believe it was at one point as many as a dozen, now down to 4 or 5. Those 4 or 5 individuals right now are maintenance folks. I mean, cutting the grass, snow plowing is the main nature of what they do. There is a lease that is coming up in the next couple months at the airport. We are looking at not just the financial future of the airport, but the operations future of the airport. And at this time, I think the county executive and the administration would like the flexibility to figure out whether having an airport manager or some other structure is the right way to run the airport in the future. But we don't know the answer to that yet, and I'm not sure that we have a full timetable to give you yet on that issue.
Well, from that answer, it sounds like it's going to be more than a week. So,
Well, even, Mr. Germano, I think even to be fair to Mr. Dever, I think we should give him some time to formulate a plan going forward. You know, this is potentially a revenue generating source for the county that's probably been, at least it seems to be, underutilized. And I think we need to take every resource we have and try and make what we can make out of it. Mr. Dever being new to his position, and Ms. Tewan having had her fingers in all the pies, I think it's going to take Mr. Dever some time to get up to speed. So to be fair to him, I think maybe we should forego any discussions on the airport till we find out
okay,
exactly what's going on out there. Ms. Simon, for the record, has showed up, and this being in her district, I think she has some interest in the airport. Ms. Simon?
And thank you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely. In fact, I've been asking for a position of manager to be restored. The airport was suffering from lack of oversight on the ground. Ms. Tewan did a good job at the upper level, but on the ground itself, we've been really, we really see that there was suffering as a result of not having day-to-day management there. We really need that. So I'm hoping that that's going to be in place in some form or another. And so I'm glad this is being at least talked about. Thanks.
Yes. Mr. Mayor.
If we remove the 5 airport positions from this resolution, would it then stand that this resolution does not affect anything at the airport?
It would not.
Yeah, okay. And does this resolution affect anybody's pay grade or salary level?
There are 2 classifications that we are requesting be revised, nursing director and permit coordinator. Those changes in pay grade were initiated by employee position audits. They were reviewed by the Department of Human Resources and went through the Archer, Max Archer job evaluation system. It was determined that a pay grade change was warranted. Once this resolution, if this resolution goes forward, then those employees' salaries would be reviewed.
So were the pay grades increased from their current level?
Yes, Councilman, the nursing director is going from a pay grade 14 to 15, and the permit coordinator is going from a 5 to a 6.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, my suggestion would be that we do what the administration requested, which is that we amend the legislation to remove the deletion of the 5 airport positions, and then we pass the rest of the legislation.
I'll second that.
I'll take that as a motion to remove the airport from Resolution 2015-0104 and move forward with the body of 0104 without that. Seconded by Mr. Germana.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Germana.
Does that mean that we'll re-letter all the exhibit?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, I think it should be. So we'll, just taking that for granted that this will be re-lettered so it doesn't look
So-
crazy in the
So,
future.
Mr. Chairman, my amendment, my motion is going to be just on the amendment, and then we should probably offer a second motion to move it out of committee.
And I believe we had that. I took that as what you were.
Right, okay.
Okay. Other further discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. And Mr. Miller, do you want to move us out of?
Yes, and what's the urgency? Can we do 3 readings, or do we need suspension?
We're not requesting suspension, Councilman.
Okay, then I think that changes to the classification plan, when possible, should the word should go out to the public, and we should let it hold over a meeting. So I'm going to move that we refer Resolution 2015-0104 to the full council for second reading.
Do I have a second? I want to move Resolutions 2015-0104 as amended to the full council for second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you very much. Resolution 2015-0115.
Resolution 2015-0115, a resolution approving the appointment of C. Ellen Connolly to serve on the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument Board of Trustees for an unexpired term ending 4/15/2019, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Madam?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's certainly an honor to be here with you. I'm requesting an appointment to the Commission of the Soldiers and Sailors Commission. I actually attended the last meeting as a visitor, and as you know, I've had a long interest in the Soldiers and Sailors Commission. Right now, there's a number of issues going on regarding the rebuilding of Public Square, and we have to maintain that, the integrity of that site, because that land does belong to the county, but that's moving along quite well. And there'll be a number of issues. I will remind the council that there are a number of positions coming up on the commission in the fall. Terms are expiring, and so I hope that you actively, solicit people to be on that commission, because it really is very important. We're working with the Republican National Convention. We've already have it listed as a site for possible venues during the convention, and we're working on having some reenactors and people there during the convention, so that people come there as a destination, and also working on an exhibit for Ohio presidents, because they're all Republicans except one Whig or something, so that the conventioneers will have an opportunity to see our Ohio presidents. And of course, as you know, I'm on the board of the Ohio Historical Society, and so this works together to be on this commission. And these are both non-paying commissions, so won't be looking for any compensation.
Any questions? Mr. Miller?
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Conley, I just want to say that you've been both passionate and dedicated in working on behalf of the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, and it's been a work of love on your part, and I ask that my name be added as a co-sponsor of this resolution, and I strongly support your appointment and look forward to the good work that you will do for us.
Thank you very much. I was at the meeting, and they actually had some trees that they were going to like donate to this. They were already there, and they were going to donate to Woodland Cemetery, and then the contractors just took them away, and that was gone. But I guess there's some granite that has been taken up that belongs to the monument, and they're working on giving it to. If say in Parma there's a some kind of a memorial that we'll get, and you can use those stones. You're going to get rid of those stones and use them. So they're into recycling and reusing the things from the monument. So it's kind of it's interesting. Lots of things that you never really thought about that come up involved in that.
Mr. Jumai?
I'd like to ditto Councilman Miller's comments, and I have my name added as well.
And add my name. Hello. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, please add my name.
I would suggest maybe contacting the rest of the council, see if they wanted to add their names also. I think you left here with a good slate, no?
Okay. Anything else?
Here in your room and your building.
Hey, I'll give you something to do.
The only problem I have is the hot dog cart out front. It's called the House of Weenies. I think we need to change that.
Well, that's not as long as it's not on the land of the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, that won't be my problem.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Well, if everybody's of the same like mind, I'll accept a motion to move this forward.
Second.
Motion done by Ms. Brown to move Resolution 2015-0115 to the full council under second reading suspension. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2015-0010.
Ordinance 2015-0010, an ordinance amending sections 113, amending sections of 113.01, 301.02, 303.01, and 303.04 of the Cuyahoga County Code, and enacting section 303.07 of the Cuyahoga County Code to establish procedures by which the Personnel Review Commission adopts its administrative rules, and to make various changes to the County Civil Service Code, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
And who's to speak on this?
Good morning, everyone. Ed Morales from the Law Department. We proposed these changes to the ordinance in part to deal with the situation we had earlier in the year involving the administrative procedures ordinance in which the Personnel Review Commission declined to submit its rules to the Personnel Review to the Administrative Rules Board and raised an objection indicating their belief that they should not be required to do so. So in an attempt to resolve this matter in a amicable way, we first met with members of the commission and with staff, I should say, and their counsel. And a suggestion was made at this meeting, I believe Councilman Miller was in attendance, that the Personnel Review Commission would be agreeable to submitting their rules to council as opposed to the Administrative Rules Board. So that's the motivation for the amendments that we've submitted, and that's what is achieved by them. In addition, there are changes suggested or offered, rather proposed, that would establish by ordinance the the notice provisions to employees who are placed in unclassified positions. Also, that would specifically authorize appointing authorities to hire unclassified employees without submitting first to the Personnel Review Commission, and that the unclassified appointments would be made in accordance with the charter and the code, and specifically adopting provisions of the Ohio Revised Code that currently exist and are applicable to counties and that differ from rules that had been passed by the Personnel Review Commission in December, I believe, and in January regarding the appointment of unclassified employees, and notice to be provided to the Personnel Review Commission and the consequences of that notice not being provided within the timeframes outlined in the PRC's adopted rule. The current code, the Ohio Revised Code, provides that there is no consequence if the written notification to the Department of Administrative Services or to the employee is not provided. It doesn't specifically impact the employee's rights. The proposed rules, the adopted rules of the PRC actually provide that if notice isn't provided within that time frame, that the employee would be considered part of the classified service, and that's that actually is in conflict with 124.12B, and we wanted to fix that situation through the proposed amendments to the code that we've provided. So if you have any additional questions, I can go over these one by one, or I'm not sure if you have specific questions about any of the proposed changes.
And did you receive this?
I did see, I was sent a copy of that, yes.
It doesn't seem that all their concerns have been addressed.
With regard to what, Mr. Chairman?
I mean, have we addressed all their concerns on that?
I don't understand, I don't know.
Did you get this?
Sorry, I don't have a copy of that
You
with,
weren't CC'd here. You can have mine.
I've seen it, but
You've seen it? Okay.
yeah, hold on, I think I have it here.
We're not gonna move this forward today, but is there anyone from there is? Why don't you come on up and let me hear your concerns?
I got it.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, my name is Charles Hannon. I'm with the prosecutor's office, and I'm here on behalf of the Personnel Review Commission. And if I could, by way of brief introduction, you received, I believe, the June 30th, 2015 statement of non-endorsement with regard to this ordinance. But before we get into the niceties of that, the ordinance and the concerns that the PRC has, I'd like to give at least a brief introduction to why we are here. As Mr. Morales indicated, this ordinance is a result of, or it follows from the Administrative Procedures Act that this council passed, I believe, in January 27th, 2015. And the concern that the Personnel Review Commission had with that act at that time, it may have been the result of unintended consequences, but the Personnel Review Commission's concerns was that that ordinance affected or intruded on its independence. It has independent responsibilities under the charter that actually we should be very vigilant in protecting, that it's not attacked and that it remains an independent entity. But having its administrative rules subject to review and approval by the new administrative review board Rules Board, I'm sorry, was of great concern to the members of the commission, and I believe actually Mr. Kalaluka, Chairman Kalaluka, appeared before the council at the time the ordinance was passed to express some of those concerns. Following the adoption of the Administrative Procedures Act, there were some discussions that went on between the PRC and the administration, and I believe members of council were present as well. And Mr. Triazzi, Law Director Triazzi, following his appointment as law director, we engaged in negotiations to try to recognize the concerns that the Personnel Review Commission had with the Administrative Procedures Act. And we conveyed at that time our concerns over the need to retain the independence of the PRC in this process. And as a result of that, this ordinance has been introduced, which removes the Personnel Review Commission from the sweep of the Administrative Procedures Act and the Administrative Rules Board, and now has the PRC submit its administrative rules to council for consideration, which I believe is consistent with what had happened previously before the charter was amended to specifically recognize the PRC's rulemaking authority. But this ordinance now no longer subjects the PRC to review by the Administrative Rules Board, but its rules will now be submitted to County Council for its consideration. Now, the ordinance as proposed also contains a number of other addresses issues regarding the classification plan, and I would on that defer to Ms. DeCaro, who can better express the concerns that the PRC has globally and specifically as to those provisions. But I wanted to at least give the council an introduction as to why we're here and why it's important that I think the council continue to recognize the need for the PRC to retain its independence. The PRC has suffered since really its creation with a perception that it is not sufficiently independent of the administration or what have you, and sometimes that perception can become a reality that it has been fighting ever since. And so we are here to represent the PRC that it's important that it retain its independence in this process. Now, if the panel has any questions as to that, otherwise I would defer to Ms. Takaro to address the specific concerns.
Just, Chuck, one on that. So the rules come to council for review and passage. What if the council determines that the rules should be changed? Are we the final authority?
Well, I think the ordinance as proposed gives the council the opportunity to determine whether or not the rule is inconsistent with the human resources policies that the council has established. And if the council determines that a rule is contrary to one of the human resources policies that the council has established by the code, then the council would declare that it is inapplicable to, I believe, employees and appointing authorities.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? No? Go ahead. Ma'am?
Good morning, Sarah DeCaro, staff attorney for the Personnel Review Commission. You have our letter and the attachment which lays out all of our objections, and in fact there are some that we recommend for passage, and I'm happy, I don't want to read through this document that you already have, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Question, Chairman. Mr. Miller.
Am I correct that the Personnel Review Commission is required under a prior ordinance to send a letter of objection whenever it has objections to a proposed piece of legislation, but this does not mean that you reject the proposal in its entirety, and in fact there's quite a bit of it that you support. Is that correct?
It's the charter that allows us to submit the non-endorsement, but
Sure.
right, as is laid out in the attachment to the letter, we do agree with some changes, and our objections to the others have been noted.
And do you support in concept the idea of submitting your administrative rules to the council for review as opposed to the Administrative Rules Board?
we think that's a move in the right direction. We still think that the charter gives us independent rulemaking authority.
So are you saying that you should not have to submit your rules to anybody?
According to the charter, the PRC has the authority to adopt rules as long as they are not in conflict with human resources policies. 9.024.
And if I could add to that, Mr. Miller, the process that is contemplated here is that even under the charter, the administrative rules have to be consistent with the human resources policies as established by the council by ordinance. So it is appropriate in that regard to have the council consider whether or not a rule is contrary to the established policy, human resources policies. The charter does give the PRC the authority to promulgate its administrative rules, but to be sure, they have to be consistent and not contrary to the human resources policies established by council. So that's why I think it is important to have council consider any administrative rules that the PRC would propose.
So what you're saying is that you feel that using the council as the instrument to make sure that the rules are consistent with the personnel ordinances as established by ordinance is appropriate.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Simon.
No, that Mr. Miller actually was able to ascertain that this part of the ordinance then is not objectionable, that the rules proposed by PRC will come to council for consideration and oversight. Is correct?
Any administrative rule that the PRC proposes will be submitted to council so that the council has an opportunity to review to determine whether or not those rules are consistent with the human resources policies established by ordinance.
Okay.
There's no, anyone else? Yes, Ms. Brown.
I see that pay equity in section 303.01 has been stricken when replaced with incorporation of amendment and relevant ORC civil service positions. The language pay equity versus the new language, can you just elaborate a little bit on that for me, please, for clarity?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to find that change. Where did you say that? Where are you looking?
Section 303.1.01.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, the reason for the change is that the title pay equity doesn't really accurately reflect the content of the provision of the ordinance. And we're proposing to rename it to Incorporation and Amendment of Relevant ORC/OAC Civil Service Provisions. And if you look through the text of the ordinance, you'll see that name is far more consistent with what the ordinance is actually about than the language pay equity, which really doesn't reflect at all the content of those provisions.
And thank you for answering that. And with the change to that, I see chapter 305 of the code, which is not included. I'm guessing that is, will that be changing over the course of time? Chapter 305?
Chapter 305 is intended to excuse me, let me just look at this real quick. That is a reference to the appropriate section of the ordinance that deals with the process for adopting job classifications and pay ranges.
So my question, it's not included, but I'm guessing there's a section that we can reference, but,
Yes, there is an existing section.
Okay.
That's just a cleanup,
okay.
if you will.
And that will also, due to the incorporation or the adoption of the ORC and OAC rules, will change over the course of time as we begin to update the classifications. Is that accurate?
No.
No? Okay.
No, the section A is the language that deals with the incorporation of the ORC and the OAC provisions. The language is there. So are you asking whether or not there will be changes over the course of time to the specific provisions of the ORC and the OAC that are incorporated? I would imagine so.
And more specifically, if I understand the language, Chapter 305 of the code speaks to the job classifications. And since and I might be confusing the issue, but since we did the audit, I know that there were some concerns with titles and classifications. So I'm just wondering, will this continue to be updated through as we make modifications to classifications?
It doesn't change
Okay.
that at all.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Miller?
Returning to a moment to section 124.14, job classification pay ranges, where it says the Personnel Review Commission shall establish and may modify or rescind, subject to approval by County Council, a job classification plan in accordance with the requirements of section 9.04 of the Cuyahoga County Charter. And then we have added chapter 305 of this code.
There should be an "and" inserted there.
That was my
Yes.
question. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that amendment.
Second.
Motion to move the amendment by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Germano. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, question.
Mr. Germano?
So, through all this, we have the Ohio Revised Code. If things change in Columbus, are we directly affected even though we're a chartered county?
Yes, we are. And the reason is that we have adopted Chapter 124, except for where those provisions are specifically altered by the code. So yes.
So we as the county and then the PRC would also have to abide by whatever is passed by the state, correct?
Sure.
Okay.
Anything further? I was of the mind to keep this in committee unless there's a reason to move it forward. Do you have a time problem here?
No, I think that we're fine with it being considered in committee.
I just wanted to afford the chairwoman the opportunity to go through what we have.
I understood that.
So if that's,
Thank you.
is that okay with both sides, sir?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Miller?
I also think it's appropriate to take a very close look at the letter from the PRC and see if there's some further of their concerns that can be satisfied. So I think that taking a little more time this is important but not urgent, and I think it's appropriate.
I would anticipate no more than 2 weeks. We'll be back here and we'll be ready to move forward on 215-0010 as amended.
This, Mr. Chairman, this process gives us the first opportunity to deal with the situation in which the PRC has utilized its charter responsibility or a mandate to review proposed ordinances and to either endorse or submit a letter of non-endorsement. And this is, I believe, I'm told, the first time that a letter of non-endorsement has been submitted with a series of proposed modifications. So it gives us an opportunity to think about what the process should be when this occurs. And I would recommend that you allow the law department to review the proposed the changes and to submit back to you for the next meeting a response.
Yeah, I would, again, anticipate probably 2 weeks. That good?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Miller?
I would make that a formal request to the law department that you review the letter of objection that was submitted by the Personnel Review Commission and to specifically respond to each of the points that they've enumerated so that we can be in a position to make a decision on each of them. Thank you.
Thank you. See you in probably 2 weeks.
Just a comment, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Ms.
Thank you so much. As a co-sponsor of this legislation, I just wanted to state that the real overriding issue is the interpretation of charter and whether this PRC is going to be considered or envisioned as a statutory body independent of this legislative body and or the administration. I say and submit that this PRC is a assistant. It's a body to handle appeals and some matters. But from my perspective, the legislative body is with the council, and the ultimate decision making is with HR and the legislative body. I don't think this charter is an independent sovereign body that can just work independent and apart from this new county government. I think that's really the overriding issue. So that's my position, that it's not a sovereign statutory body. Unlike the library, we're going to hear an appointment to the library board, which is in fact a sovereign independent body. This is an arm, an assisted arm of the administration and council. So that's what the overriding issue is. So thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Germano.
just in the same vein as Councilwoman Simon, I added my name to this because I thought this was something that was going to be mutually agreed upon by the PRC and our law department. But in particular, I've said this before, when we passed that charter, it wasn't the fact that everyone agreed with every word that was in that charter. It was written with best intentions, but we know it's not perfect. And the county council and administration has got the ability to amend it and make it more perfect. So just because it said that in the charter, now we're in a position to interpret how it's best served. So I just want to kind of reconfirm that I was hopeful that this was going to be, the verbiage in this ordinance is acceptable to both sides. So I look forward to us having further discussion.
Mr. Miller.
I think it's important to put the PRC objection letter in proper perspective. I read that letter pretty carefully, and I came away from the reading feeling that the PRC agrees with 80 to 90% of it, and mean, there's some important points and some areas of difference, and it's important that we take the extra time and see how much of it we can resolve, and there's a lot of legislation passed where people end up supporting it in the main, but they might have done this provision or that provision a little bit differently, you know. So I'm not saying that we need to get to 100% total agreement on every line in the ordinance, but we should take a shot at getting closer to that, and we're going to do that.
Okay, thank you. Now we have discussion regarding Cuyahoga County Public Library Board of Trustees appointment of Elizabeth Hajar. How close was I?
Good morning. It's very nice to be here today and to see all of you. And I want to welcome Elizabeth Ihar, who is recommended by the county executive as an appointment to the Cuyahoga County Public Library Board. And I know she's here to introduce herself to you and to answer any questions, as am I.
And great, so she's been officially submitted.
Yes.
And the problem was the paperwork just didn't get to us on time, I understand.
Yes, my sincere apologies for that.
That's fine.
Our board president, Maria Spangler, will be having a baby any minute.
Oh.
And, in fact, when I had a text from her this morning, I was hoping that was the news. So we welcome having a full complement of our board at this time.
Okay.
So anything that the council is willing to do for us, we sincerely appreciate.
Thank you. Ma'am.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to let me be here today. Just a little bit about my background. I currently work at the Centers for Families and Children. It's an area nonprofit that provides early childhood education and health and wellness services, among other things. I'm a licensed attorney and practiced for several years with the law firm of Thompson Hine. And additionally, I've consulted for area nonprofits. I have a lot of volunteer experience. I currently am the board chair of the Global Ambassadors Language Academy, and I also serve on the boards of Land Studio and the Hispanic Roundtable. I'm really excited about this opportunity. I was reviewing, I feel like I'm eating this microphone, I'm sorry. Last night, I just returned from vacation, and last night I was reviewing, the paperwork, the annual report, and the job description of the library board trustee. And I feel, given my experience as an attorney and on working for a nonprofit and serving on nonprofit boards, I'm well suited to serve on the library board. Additionally, I have a tremendous passion, professionally and personally, to work towards having, all of our citizens, especially our most underprivileged, have access to opportunities like the library, so that they have, access to even more opportunities and to improve their own station in life. And with that, I don't know if I'm happy to answer any questions.
These are kind of open. Any questions? Ms. Brown?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You mentioned the Land Studio. Can you elaborate on that? I'm not familiar, so if you could share with me.
Sure. Land Studio is a nonprofit that is actually very involved with the Group Plan Commission here in renovating Public Square, among other areas. They provide they coordinate with other partners to improve public spaces throughout the city of Cleveland. And some in our inner ring suburbs.
Are there any, Mr. Miller?
I know that the county public library has been devoting a considerable effort to how can we make our facilities more cost effective. And I know that that a few years back the state legislature enacted a significant reduction in state support for library services, which, by the way, I voted against. And so my question is whether you have some background in dealing with budget and finance type matters, and also what your views are on how going forward the library can best achieve cost effectiveness at the same time achieving your goals about accessibility of services and opportunities.
Well, certainly working with my current position with the Centers for Families and Children, we are very dependent on government funding. So when certain government funding changes, we certainly have to look within the organization and see what we can do to, keep our programming, keep our operations going. And certainly the last thing that we want to do is cut services to those in need. And especially, in the position that I'm currently in, I've also worked at what can we do to achieve cost savings. So perhaps we're not being threatened by any potential cut, but we always have to be as efficient as possible and see, and definitely no organization, including the library, can stay complacent and take for granted the funding that they receive. You always have to be a few steps ahead. And in terms of, how I see the library serving its all county residents, including the most underprivileged, admittedly, I have a lot to learn about the library system. I do know from my own experience going to the Chagrin Falls branch where I live, the programming that is offered and the outreach that is done is amazing, and I'm very impressed at what they've been able to do just within my own local community to get the word out that they're here to serve us, and they want to be engaged with the community.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Miller.
My final comment would be that inclusion for the Hispanic community in the new government in Cuyahoga County has been one area where I would just say our performance has been uneven. There's been times where we've made some progress, and there's been other times where it could have been better. So I'm just happy to see a qualified candidate from the Hispanic community put forward, and I'm enthusiastic about putting you on the library board and look forward to your service.
Thank you.
Ms. Simon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and congratulations on your nomination to this position with the library board. My question is, do you have a vision for the next 5 years where you would like to see the library go? The last 5, at least, we've seen a movement to close down libraries, build new libraries. Where do you see the library going, or where do you have such a vision?
I think it would be, I don't think I can totally give you an answer to that now. I mean, I really have a lot to learn, and my experience with the libraries has always been as a user, as a consumer. Certainly, if I have a vision, it would certainly be to offer the most programming as possible to all individuals to be accessible to as many residents, all residents as possible. And, but I understand that that's not the easiest thing to do at all times. Hard decisions have to be made. Costs continue to increase, and sometimes you have to make decisions that don't please everyone. And I feel with my experience that I'm used to making those hard decisions, but also, prior to making those hard decisions, to build consensus. So I'm excited for that opportunity.
Mr. Germano.
Well, I'm very encouraged by your nomination and what you had to say. Just coincidentally, since Sari's here, on the way in, NPR was talking about the rainiest June in history, and they paid a great compliment to the library because, I don't know if you heard this, but they were saying a great place to take kids of all ages and adults on a rainy day is the libraries in Cuyahoga County. So I know that the board has had to make some very tough decisions, but I think we're moving in the right direction. And I'm particularly impressed because of the technology part of it. We're above the curve, so I congratulate you. You got a great board to be put on. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And if I might add something about the finances, if I might have the privilege, I want to just say that we have weathered some difficult reductions in state funding, some reductions in local property tax collections, and thanks to our board, we have really stewarded the library system through a difficult time. And in the last time we went to the ballot for additional taxes was 2008, and we typically our pattern had been to go to the ballot every 4 to 5 years. We have not done that, nor do we anticipate going to the ballot in the near future. So I think the board has done an extraordinary job, and we really welcome Elizabeth and her vision and her commitment to people in this community to our board.
Mr. Miller.
I would just comment that libraries in Ohio generally are rated as in the top 5 states in the country. It's clearly an area in which Ohio is world class, and I think the library systems in Cuyahoga County are certainly reflective of that, and so we certainly want to keep that and improve upon that, and be aware and thankful for what an excellent resource we have.
Mr. Chair. Your comment about not going back to the people brought the question to me is the support, the levies of the library. They don't have to be renewed. They're permanent.
When we went to the ballot in 2008, we did go for a continuing issue. We currently operate at 2.5 mil, which is the lowest millage of any of the library systems in Cuyahoga County.
Anything further?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, so what does that mean, this ongoing levy?
It's a continuing millage of 2.5 mil, and so we have not needed to add to that millage or to replace that millage.
So is that in perpetuity?
It is in perpetuity, yes.
We have this bottom line funding.
For the library system.
For the libraries,
yes,
of course.
Yes. Many of the library systems in Cuyahoga County have a continuing issue, but as recently as this past election, Cleveland Heights, for example, added to that millage. Yeah.
Okay. Anything further? Mr. Germano?
And, I'm just, if you don't mind, this is kind of like off the subject, but since you brought that up, one of the objectives of this government and certainly this council is collaboration between cities, municipalities, and so on. Talking about some people merging services and so on. Is talks going on with the library systems? Because how many library systems are there in Cuyahoga County?
There are 9 library systems in Cuyahoga County. There is Cuyahoga County Public Library, Cleveland, and 7 suburbs have independent libraries. There are currently no discussions about inclusion or merger. However, I am very proud that this summer, 7 of the 9 library systems collaborated on the summer reading program, Make Summer Count. And I think by working together, we have an incredible summer reading initiative that is certainly about the core importance of reading to prevent the summer slide, but we are also collaborating on math learning over the summer, encouraging volunteerism both for children and their families, and really having a rich experience in 7 of the 9 library systems that are working together on summer reading. We're very proud of that. I also know that people on this council are very concerned about children in this community, and we are serving lunch in 5 of our libraries this summer in the Inner Ring, where we collaborate with the food bank to ensure that children who live in communities where they do not have adequate access to food are being fed.
Ms. Brown?
Ms. Feldman, you touched on, I think Warrensville is one of this libraries benefiting from the food program. But one of the things I wanted to request, when you think library, you generally think reading. Has there been any talk or discussions about incorporating STEAM or STEM activities with regards to science, technology, arts, and math?
This summer, Cuyahoga County Public Library is offering 75 summer programs with STEAM as the focus, everything from Lego robotics to how to make an app to how to create a video game. We offer them throughout Cuyahoga County with the heaviest investment in the communities of Warrensville Heights, Maple Heights, Garfield Heights, and the Bedford area. We call that the Southwest branch, as well as other ring suburbs such as the South Euclid-Lyndhurst branch, Brooklyn branch, and Parma, places where we identify that children have less access to summer recreation programs that provide for that. These programs are really extraordinary. We are limited by the hours in the day and the funding that we have. It's an adjunct to during the school year, in 10 locations, we offer homework centers after school where we also incorporate technology experiences. And then we really focus on a lot of hands-on activity in the summer. It's just really extraordinary. I hope some of the council members will have the opportunity to visit.
Okay. Anything further? Well, this was just a discussion. Are we going to have legislation?
On the July 14th council agenda for first reading adoption.
Great. Okay, I think that takes care of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Wonderful to see all of you. Thank you very much.
Take care. Miscellaneous business? Other public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one has signed in.
We're adjourned.